Hi guys, good evening. So I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting in for people to join in. Ooh, it's day 2 and we are here again. We are here again. Hi JB. What? John Bass? Whoa, hi. So good to have you join. Wow. I hope you can hear me though. I can see you're laughing already. Hi, Jamie. It's so good. It's so good to have you on board. Wow. I'm sure you just saw that I went on live, right? And you decided to just come check up. How are you and she Aisha doing? It's been a while. How's Aisha doing though? Yes, I'm just waiting for my guests to join in and for others to join in and we can start the conversation. Oh my goodness. Looking fat and greasy. Yeah, I know, right? We haven't spoken in like years though. So good to hear from you, JB. Hi, coach. Yay, she made it. Yes, she made it. Hi, coach, please send me a request so that I can add you up. Coach, can you hear me though? Yes, JB, definitely. My birthday is coming soon though. Hi, coach.
Hi.
Hi, coach.
Hi.
You made it.
Yay.
I'm
How
so
are you?
glad that you did. Thank you. I'm fine, coach.
So
How are
happy
you?
to. I'm very well. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy and blessed to be here. How are you?
I'm fine. I am so excited to have you. I did not think that me and you were going to be doing this very soon, though. I didn't think that at all.
Oh, wow. No, everything works
Yeah.
out. Things at, is in perfect timing. So I believe it's the right time. How have you been? I'm so excited to be on your platform. So, you know, when you're ready, let's get started.
Okay, Coach. So let me just say hello to the people that are just joining in. I have Pastor Falabi, yay, P Forbes. Thank you for joining in. I have the London personal shopper. Thank you guys for joining in. Robert Yakubu, thank you for joining. Hey, Modupsi baby, thank you for joining in. Wow, it's so good. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for. I know we changed the time, because Coach had something to really to meet up with, but we're glad that she's here. Thank you, Benga, for joining in. So let's just get right into the conversation. So, Coach, so I wanted to talk about why I decided to go on this live platform to share. And it's because I realized I recently just had like a moment where I realized that thoughts play a very pivotal role in our lives and in becoming, the people that we want to be, really. And so I realized that also because I dealt with depression and all of that. One of the things that I realized in all of that moment was that I was very negative minded. And as a result of this, I realized that most of my life result was always in the negative. And when it happens, it was like, I'm not surprised this is happening. Like, I'm expecting this to happen, because I was just in that place, very negative minded and all of that. So I read a book, The Thought Bank. I'm sure that you've seen it already.
Well done.
And so I just wanted us to, get to have this conversation where we talk about me and my thoughts. I know that we talk a lot about, the power of spoken words. We talk about visualization. We talk about meditation, affirmation, and all of these things. But we really do not have a lot of people speaking to the thoughts, the thought perspective and all of that. So I wanted us to come on here and just, share. So before we go in and I start asking you questions, please just introduce yourself. Let me allow you to do that. So please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mary, for having me on your platform. I'm honored and blessed to be able to share this platform with you and share my knowledge with your lovely people signing on, listeners. So my name is Ugo Chijutomi. I am the Eagle, your Chief Encouraging Officer, also known as your Chief Encouraging Officer. I got too many names, but there are reasons behind them, So I'm always known as the Chief Encouraging Officer and the Eagle. I'm a life coach, an integrative practitioner. I'm a certified life coach, NLP and EFT. So people who don't know what that means is neuro-linguistic programmer and programming and emotional freedom techniques practitioner. I'm also a psychodynamic psychotherapist in training, and I've just finished a foundation level certification in counseling. So that's me in a nutshell. But who am I? My mandate is simple. My mandate is to unleash the eagle within every person I meet. In fact, I've just been recently given a figure, and it's to unleash the eagle in 1 million people. Whoa!
Whoa!
Exactly. And what does that mean? That means to unleash your inner strength, your inner courage, and your purpose. I believe that we're all eagles. We're here to soar. We're not just human being that people just think that there's nothing to you. There is something to you, and every one of us have got genius levels in us, and my mandate is to simply awaken the genius in you, that greatness that is lying dormant. That's who I'm called out to be. So that's me in a nutshell. So thank you for having me.
That's a lot of you in a nutshell.
Forgot to even add the bit. I'm a podcaster. I have a podcast called Unleash the Eagle. Also an author.
An author too.
And an author. I've just written a book called 7 Limiting Beliefs Holding You from Soaring. So there's a little different aspects to me. So hopefully you get to know me as we continue talking.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. Thank you for introducing it. I mean, that was really powerful. Thank you so much. So let's just get right into it. So I'll start off with a question, right? So that we're not talking above, people's heads. I want to start off with, what exactly is this thing called thoughts? or what are thoughts?
Perfect. Thank you for that. So I will simplify it, okay? And simplifying it is breaking it to the granular level. So basically, thoughts are a cumulative of ideas and things that we are processing that comes up to the conscious level. So if you imagine that your mind is a big hemisphere, right? A big world hemisphere. If that's just an imagination of what your mind means. Within that is a divide in your mind. There is the conscious level and there is the subconscious level. All right. And so we are using both sides of our minds. We are connecting in our minds different levels between conscious and subconscious, but we are mostly on the subconscious level. So for instance, on the conscious level is 5%. We use 5% of our conscious mind, and the rest is 95%. Okay. So if you imagine it, if you imagine a massive hemisphere, the one who is on the bottom, which is mostly the subconscious, is really feeding the conscious. Okay. So, and the conscious is when we start to, like, I'm consciously talking to you now, but within this conscious conversation, I'm dipping in and out of consciousness, which means subconscious will take over. Okay, subconscious are the things that I have put inside of me, and so it is embedded inside of me. So that's the most basic thing for us to understand. Now, when our thoughts start coming up, it's like they're floating up into the surface. Most times, most of our thoughts are floating from our subconscious, right? So they are coming up. It's like you're bubbling and they're coming up. So most times our thoughts are, we are constantly generating thoughts. Now we generate over 60,000 thoughts a day, 60,000 thoughts. So if you just think about it, right, you've got grains and grains of sands, and let's just imagine your thoughts are little bubbles. There's 60,000 of them every day. So let's just imagine you have a computer and you open 60,000 different pages. What happens to the computer? It slows the computer down, right? But we have the power. This is why the mind, where the thoughts operate in, is the most powerful electronic you can ever have. In fact, I always tease that, where do you think people have got the ideas of cloud? Okay, we've got clouds embedded in our minds. We have storages that are bigger than every gigabytes you can imagine, because the mind is a 2 million old brain. The mind is 2 million old age, right? So if you imagine how powerful the mind is, then you can imagine the amount of thoughts it can process in a day. Out of that thoughts that you're processing, majority of them are limiting, disempowering thoughts. Now let's take, for instance, you're processing constantly thoughts, 60,000. You cannot catch all those thoughts. It's impossible, because I just explained to you that 5% of the time is when you're conscious. So 50,000, and this is what's happening. Thoughts are bubbling up in the surface. You're only 5% of the time just picking up some of them. But you do not know that most of these thoughts are disempowering and limiting thoughts, because they've been programmed from a lot of things. So let's go back to the hemisphere of how we see our mind, and we see where it's coming from. So we're now talking about where these other things have fed into the thoughts. So if you start thinking about feeds, okay, so like we got feeds on our phone, we're seeing feeds, things are coming into feeds. Things have been feeding into where the thought bank, the bank, has been going. So they've been saved. So you find yourself processing thoughts on a regular that is making you disempowered, negative, that is limiting you. And you start to think, oh, I can't control this. No. So thoughts are something something that we are not giving awareness to. And I'm so glad you're doing that, because it's so true. Because of how powerful our thoughts are, our thoughts affect our emotions. Our emotions affect our behavior. Our behavior affects our actions. And then begin to become a vicious cycle. So let's take, for instance, you say you have a thought of not good enough. Nobody likes me. Guess what? It's going to give you an emotion that you will feed off, that, oh, I'm not good enough. You start withdrawing from people because you feel not good enough. Because of that, people start, obviously you're withdrawing from people. So it's no wonder why that people start withdrawing from you, because they feel, oh, she's acting a bit funny. Okay? But you are not aware that your thoughts started this cycle. So we then have a fulfilled prophecy, or we say, oh, there you go. I thought as much. You thought as much. You generated the thought. Okay, you generated the thought that is feeding off the person that you're generating the thought towards, that is now giving you the reaction and the action that you're getting back. So it's like you're mirroring yourself back at what you're giving. And I didn't realize how powerful thoughts were until I read the book As a Man Thinketh, So He Is by James Allen. And then I realized also that was based off of a word in the Bible, Proverbs, that said, as a man thinks, so he is. So what are we processing? They're negative, disempowering. Now, another thing about this thought thing that I needed to put out is 7% of our thoughts, or let's say majority of our thoughts, we literally are repeating the same thoughts over and over and over and over again. So we're not generating new thoughts. We're not creatively creating new thoughts. We're instead recycling new thoughts. And so imagine the computer that I'm saying, which is 60,000 pages have been opened. They are constantly reprogramming, rerunning. And so we're all stuck in the mud and in the rut, as it were, with our thoughts. Does that help a little bit on how the thoughts? I wanted to break it down so that just in case people who are on here are not familiar with big words, I wanted to use those kind of examples to show you how thoughts are. Now, let me even break it down to you. Our thoughts are even more than thoughts. They are signals. Okay. Now, you might say, what do you mean by that? Our thoughts are signals that are sending waves, electromagnetic waves, out to the universe. Okay, so you wake up in the morning, you hit your, maybe, I'm just giving an instance, you hit your head on, you hit your leg by the bed. Because of that, it's put you in a bad mood. So instantly you're like, oh, I've already started my day bad anyway. So you're saying that to yourself, you're thinking that, oh, this is going to be a bad day. So you get on the bus, or you get on your transport, someone pours coffee on you, or someone does something to you, you're like already thinking, oh, it's already a bad day. Because of the way you started your thought process, everything that you generate that day would be in alliance to you, because it's thinking, oh, we want a bad day, don't we? Because you've thought about it, you've created it, so let me give you a bad day. So we are not aware, just like the phone, just like every other electronic, your thoughts are sending magnetic waves and messages across the world, across the universe.
Wow. Whew. I think that we should just say that, let's just take that in for a minute and just process that, because I'm just like, whoa, a lot of things are going through my mind, and I'm just seeing how everything just kind of like interconnects, in your life. Wow, that is a lot. Now, okay, so I want us to still go back, but I remember that I think that it was from you that I first heard the statements that thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. So I want you to just, zoom in on that a little bit and just, share some light on that.
Exactly. Thank you, because that's one of the most powerful words that I stick by. Thoughts are things. And what do I mean? Everything that you are experiencing right now have been things that you have thought about. Everything. Let's use something as simple as you wanted to have a haircut, to change your look. Look amazing, by the way. You wanted to change your look. The first thing you did was process it as a thought. It came as a thought.
Yeah.
Oh, what would I look like with a haircut? You started to think about it. And then from there, you then started to probably have images of it. You started to be like, oh, okay, you check pictures of people who had the cut, what style. You then start to research the barber. You start to see, okay, I want to put a line here. I don't want to put a line there. And you start taking in those things, right? And then from there, you actually take the action to go and cut the hair. The process of that started with a thought. I've just used an example, but everything that we are really having or doing or being has started from a thought. You've thought about it. So thoughts create things. Thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. But if we know the power of our thought, then we start to think creatively. We start to think with intentionality. So rather than unconsciously thinking 60,000 things, you'll be conscious of your thoughts. You find time to actually create thoughts, create new thoughts. So let me give you an example. I was thinking the other day, I wanted a particular type of phone, and for me, I've not really paid attention to I'm not a techie in terms of wanting the new phone, whatever. I'm good with anything else. But I started to be intentional about what it is I wanted. And I started to think about the iPhone that I wanted, which was an expensive or a more higher level to the one I had. And it was like an iPhone 12. So I started to creatively think about the iPhone 12. But before, what I would do is think about iPhone 12, iPhone 11, iPhone 13, iPhone 8. I would just think about everything, but not zooming on what I want. But because I started to learn the power of thoughts, I started to actually sit with what is it I want, and then create it with the thoughts. So I started to, actually, I want an iPhone 12. I want a color, this color in the phone. I want this. And kid you not, while I did that, I started to understand that I was actually creatively calling this thought into things. Couple of months later, I got the exact phone I wanted. I got the exact phone I wanted in the manner that I wasn't even expecting it to come. So creative thoughts and creative thinking is something that we must zoom into. Because everything you're experiencing, if you're experiencing a life that you're not happy with, you have created it with your thoughts. You've thought about it. You're not powerless beings. This is a thing, right? When I say you're an eagle, I'm trying to show you the power that lies within you. You're not powerless. God has fashioned and created you in his own image, and he has made you a likeness of him, of God, which means you also have the domain and the power that resides in the creator. He gives it to you. And how? Thoughtful thinking, your mind, using it creatively and intentionally to create the world that you want. Let's think about it. Everything that we see, I'm a Christian, so I like to use the Bible as my foundation. But everything that we have seen in the word has been based on the thoughts. God said, let us create. He thought about creation. Let us create. He didn't just come up about it. He thought about it first. And then he thought, let's create man in our own image. Why did he say that? Because he had to think of the image is imagination. And what does imagination lie? It lies in the thought process and in the thought faculty. So we've been taught how to creatively create, but we're not using that power of creativity enough to create. Do you get what I mean? We're not creatively creating. We are shooting our thoughts in every direction. We're not purposefully targeting where we want. So yes, thoughts become things, and it also is things when we come about negative thoughts. If you notice, a lot of people have said, oh, you know, people are not going to like me, or people are not going to favor me, people are not going to give me things. And then you start realizing that in that process something is happening. It's the signal that we have unconsciously sent out to say, don't give me anything, I'm not receiving, I don't want to receive. Okay? Or it's a signal that we say, okay, I don't like anybody, I don't want anyone in my space. So because of that, we then begin to create this world with our thoughts.
Wow, coach. I mean, I'm blown off. So I was going to say something, and I think that it's important that I even put this out here so that we can just learn, you know, that these things are really practical and we're not talking about something that is just far off.
No.
So, you had mentioned about the phone. So I realized recently, and it was, recently actually. So I said to myself that I actually want a brand new phone on my birthday. I said that again, it was a thought, I just scattered it out there. And then a thought, then I got a question. So what type of phone do you want? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I think that I'll probably get maybe an iPhone 8. Because I'm like, I think that just God might be able to afford this one, And then, moments passed after I said this, and I think I wrote it down, because I'm also learning to write things down, especially things that I want. I'm learning to write them down. And moments after I had this, process, the next thing that happened, the next question that came in is, why do you think that you do not deserve an iPhone 13 Pro Max? So I'm saying to myself, I'm like, I'm not sure I deserve an iPhone 13 Pro Max. Because in my head, I'm like, then I go online, I research and find out, okay, well, so what's the current price for this? And then the price that I saw, I'm like, what? How is this possible? Can't. But then I realized that I had troubling thoughts internally after that moment, because I realized that for some reason my thoughts was not aligning with something, and for it to create the emotion that I need enough to be able to say, well, I'm excited about receiving something. Now I know what I want. I thought about it. I know what I want. I know how much it will cost. Now I'm thinking to myself, now I realized that when I walked through that process, asked myself certain questions, I realized that there was an underlying thought within me that says that I don't think that you're worth iPhone 13 Pro Max at this point. Like, what are you going to do with it? But I'm like, I have a lot of things I can do with it. I have a lot of things I want to do with it. So there's been that struggle. And I know that, one of the things that you mentioned, the process, because really the process is more of an alignment, and it flows, and it's like one thing leading to another, to another, to another, to another, to get the result, So, I just wanted you to zone in on this a little bit. So that was why I wanted to share this example, with you, because I know that there might be other people on the call who might have thought of something that they really desire to have. It might not even be something material. Now, this is just something material, right? So how then how are you able to catch? Now, for me, I was, maybe because of the little knowledge that I have, I was able to catch that there was an underlying thought about unworthiness that made me not align really with my desires.
Yeah.
So I started to have doubts. I started to think, is it really possible? I'm not sure it's possible. So I'm like, is it possible? It's not possible. So we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I know that one very key thing about receiving from God is that your you have to be in alignment. Really, your belief has to be aligned, because it says that if you ask, you have to receive, you have to believe that you have received it from him, and then it will happen. So I just wanted you to walk. I'm using myself as an example, putting myself out there now, so that you could just walk through this entire process for us and help us get to that place of total alignment where we can.
Perfect. So you've just explained what happens when sometimes you have a thought and is misaligned with your desires. I call it, there is a mismatch between the three-party. I call it a three-part you, which is your body, your soul, and your spirit, right? So that is where when there's no alignment in that, there begins to be friction. So let's break down what you just explained there. So basically, your thoughts come because they're influenced by certain things as well, right? So you've got thoughts that have been influenced by your environment. So you've seen something you desire, which is a phone, but a thought process of, I want a phone, but I don't think I deserve the top-notch phone. I want a lesser phone. And there is that tug within yourself asking, but why don't you want a better phone? Why are you not going for? So what you find, there is something that has already been programmed inside of your subconscious begins to fight these new thoughts that you have, whereby it's telling you, no, you don't deserve this iPhone 13, because maybe growing up you couldn't afford an iPhone 13, right? So your environment have conditioned the kind of thoughts that it allows, because it's trying to protect you. So it allows certain thoughts to float out. And when it realizes that it's passed through the gates to a certain thought, it starts to fight within you to say, no, why are you processing these thoughts? I don't want us to get hurt. We can't afford it. I was going to say the trick here. You started to notice something I call I call them the signals, your emotions, right? So your emotions starts to tell you, oh, why are you feeling sad? You want to have a phone, but you're looking to, you don't desire it, or you don't think you're good enough. So your emotions are indicating to you that there is a fundamental problem in your programming. Okay? So you start finding that your thoughts, sometimes you cannot catch all your thoughts, but you can catch your emotions. Because what you did there was something inside of you that was unrest. So our emotions are our gates. They are like our red, green, and our red, amber, and green. Okay? When you're feeling red, when you feel red, which means you're feeling hot, bothered, angry, there's a thought that you have been processing that is now indicating that there is something wrong. So what has happened with your case is you started to process these thoughts, not realizing that the thoughts is being subjected to a programming of your belief. Okay, so we're gonna go down. Remember, I talked about the home hemisphere, and that there's a thought underneath, and that it bubbles up to the surface, right? Be underneath the thought, you got your beliefs. So if you've come with a belief that I don't think I am worthy of a phone this expensive, you will begin to fight those thoughts, or your mind will fight those thoughts. Your subconscious that has been programmed begins to fight each other to say, how dare you try and upset Mary? Why did you give her these thoughts? She doesn't deserve an iPhone because she's already agreed. We've created this program to let her know that she's not worthy. Why did you let these thoughts get to the surface? So you start finding that within you there's a conflict, because one is trying to protect you from being hurt and disappointed that you don't have it, based on what? On the programs, on the beliefs, on the environment of the conditioning that it's been used to. Okay, and so it is subject to say, let us stay in our lane. Our lane is iPhone 8. Let's not hurt Mary. That's what it's saying. Our lane is iPhone 8. Let's not hurt Mary. So when you start feeling an emotion that is telling you there's a problem, what do? You start to think, what thoughts am I processing? So let me give you an instance, okay? So I went out with some friends and everything, and suddenly I started to feel upset. I wasn't feeling upbeat enough, and I was feeling an emotion inside of me. At this point, I wasn't aware. Remember the 60,000 thoughts that has been bubbling up? I wasn't aware what thoughts I was processing, but my feelings were indicating that there is a wrong thought that I am militating, or that is brooding in my head. So I start to try and dissect. It's like you go in and you start dissecting, what's this emotion? I found that my emotion was anger. So I was thinking, okay, why do I feel angry? It came down to a thought process that I had because I was in an environment where the person I was reminded me of the past situation that had happened with this person. So a thought came through, which was disappointment of this person I've made based on what had happened before. I'm with this person, not consciously processing that thought because I'm okay, things happen in the past, we get over it, right? And so I'm getting on, but I'm not, something's wrong. I don't feel happy. I feel angry. When I zoomed into the thoughts, I realized that one of the thoughts that had bubbled up into the surface without me realizing it were the thoughts that had happened maybe 5 years ago of that person disappointing me. So I was still processing that thought unconsciously, but my emotions gave it away that it was affecting me in the present. So a lot of the times we are recalling our past.
True.
Unconsciously.
True.
We are recalling what somebody did us wrong. In this process, we are recalling our experience of not being able to buy iPhone 12 before. So because of that, the feeling of unworthiness comes through. Okay? Our environment that we've come from conditioned us not to desire. So that feeling comes through. It starts to reprocess itself like it's in the present. But what you forget is in the past. Things have changed. And so when we catch ourselves processing on thoughts that I call them disempowering, negative, believing thoughts, we need to be able to stop ourselves immediately. And the key question is, where has this thought come from? Is this coming from my past? Is this coming from an experience? Is it coming from a belief? Now, when you go through that process of dissecting your thoughts, auditing your thoughts, you start realizing that half of the thoughts you have need to change. I call it clearing out. I have a process of taking you through a 7-pillar process. And one of them is dissolving your beliefs. We need to dissolve all those beliefs about you, where you've created this, I call them the Jericho walls. So the Jericho walls in your mind have erected because you've had an experience of probably poverty, where you couldn't afford an iPhone 13 before. Exactly. And so your thoughts then inform your emotions. Okay. So your emotions inform your behavior, and then your behavior inform your actions. And so suddenly you realize that you stay away from anything that will give you iPhone 13 without you knowing. You would stay away from it. You would say it's for them, it's for other people, it's not for me. Why? It's not for people, it's not for people like me. Where did you get the idea of people like you?
True.
Because somebody said in our past when we were growing up, cut your coat according to your size. Or who do you know where you're coming from? Your type is not the one that is carrying iPhone 13. The lies. So we start processing them as our truth. Once we process them as our truth, they then become a law in our life. We start creating laws that work against us because we are the we are the king and president of our organization. You an organization, I'm an organization. Why do I say that? There's 70 trillion cells working in you, all in harmony. You can't even have that as a country. So when you send information down from your mind, you're informing the 70 trillion workers in you to say, this is how we think. Oh, we have to think of low level. So rather than the 70 trillion working hard to get you everything you want, they will say, no, no, no. Our boss has said we should just think of it. So we don't understand how much the power of our thoughts inform our world. It doesn't just mean thoughts, it means you are creating. It means we are in creation every minute. Either you like it or you don't. You are constantly creating. Either you accept it or you don't. You are in creation because you are energy in motion. You're constantly in motion. So if we are energy in motion, we are working, we're doing something. Even when you're not aware, you're doing something. So why don't we spend time to start spending time to create intentionally, creatively thinking, and creating the world that we desire?
Wow. That is just powerful. And oof. So I'm just I'm just trying to pick my thoughts back. And I'm glad. Thank you so much, Coach, for breaking it down that way. So I wanted to use myself, as an example to show people, exactly how all of these things merge and how, they create certain things in our life, and how when we do not see certain results, we know that, something is not right somewhere in this process. So we need to check it, so thank you so much, Coach, for shedding, light on that. And I hope that, people listening in are able to glean something from that, maybe one or two things, and then we'll help them realign that, what, it's okay, pick your thoughts and then begin to walk through it, get what you need to get, dissolve what needs to be dissolved, and recreate new things, because your thought has the creative ability, to create the results that you want to see in your life, so thank you so much, Coach. Now I wanted to also get in a little bit to the flip side. Now we've spoken about us as individuals, now just me, my thoughts, and how it impacts certain things, and when I want to get things and all of that is that. So now I wanted us to talk about how our thoughts influences and affects our relationship with other people. The impact. I know that we say, oh, it's just my thoughts now, it's not really affecting anybody, it's not really, no, I know that, my thoughts affects relationships. You just find that because of a particular thought that you've had about a person, you find that you've gone through those, processes that you mentioned, and you find that you're reacting about absolutely nothing when there's nothing to react on. You pick offenses at any slight thing, that is being said to you, because you have certain thoughts about this person. When the person says something to you, you immediately just pick up and say, I knew it. That's what they are saying. You're already creating meaning out of what isn't, and you find that a lot of people lose out on a lot of relationships because of that. So I know that I also wanted to share this. I know that there's currently like a cancel culture where we talk about, or if people are not these, just let them go, abandon them, do this, and there's a lot of things out there. And I know that a lot of these words are coming from people's deep trauma and people who've been hurt by other people, so I wanted us to just delve a little bit about that and see how your own thoughts affects and influences everything around you, including the people that you're surrounded by.
Let me tell you something. Thank you for that. And it's a very, very profound question. Because before now, I used to be part of the, if you don't, I cancel them.
Cancel
you start realizing how many people are you canceling, or you hear things like, you can't sit with us, or this are the, you start realizing that we are actually self-sabotaging our relationships. Now, I said something to you about how we are electromagnetic beings. Your thoughts are sending signals. How do I know? You know, sometimes people come around you, you feel, this person's got a bad vibes. We call it vibes. That person, she has bad. Let me tell you something. It's so funny. And it is also profoundly good, and it's profoundly bad in terms of how it works. Okay, so some people get thoughts, get feelings of people, and then they'll be like, that person's got bad vibes. Girl, are you saying they got bad vibes? Are you saying you got bad vibes, or you're just not vibrating on the level that person is? Okay, so we forget that we are all vibrational beings. We're vibrating on different levels. So let me give you an example. Right? You see a certain person, you're like, I don't like that one. Why don't you like that person? What has that person done? I pick that up all the time. So when you think about it, you then have to ask yourself, have you decided on this person based on your thoughts? Where did the thoughts come from? Maybe in quote, that person has spoken like somebody who offended you some years back, or the person looks like somebody who had disappointed you some years back. So we carry hurts on like you say, untreated traumas. I'm telling you, we are all got traumas. I don't care where you're from. And if you're not working on your healing, then I call it, you're just like a bucket with holes, punctured holes. And every time you fill it up, it will be leaking. So it's time that we start to do our deep work of healing, because the thoughts that we are processing, some of them are coming from hurt. You can imagine some people have lost out in deep relationship. Why? Because somebody disappointed them 10 years ago. So God help the lady who is single, and then the guy comes up to her and unfortunately uses the word that maybe some guy said to her 10 years ago. She'd be like, cancel. This is not, God has said he's not the one. No. You're processing thoughts of disappointment and hurt unconsciously. You're not actually hearing from anything. You're processing thoughts that have come from pain. So our thoughts a lot of the times hinder relationship. They hinder relationship. And then by that doing, they stop us from actually seeing the person for who they are.
They really are.
And if people can step back sometimes, they'll realize that most of us are very unconsciously biased. We are.
True.
So you have this thought about the person because of a certain thing the person done, but you forget that what it is you haven't finished healing your process. So you're hurting. And then it becomes, that person's offended me, so I've got to leave. That person did this. No. I always say this, when you see somebody, they are reflecting back to you something about yourself. We're always reflecting back to ourselves what we see of ourselves in each person. So before you go on this rampage of canceling the whole people out, ask yourself a question. Where did I get this thought from? Was it based on my experience, on my belief, on my environment? Have they affected the way I've been thinking? Then begin to dissolve everything that is a lie that you have erected in your Jericho wall. And decide and know, okay, this relationship, I'm going to treat it as brand new. I'm not going to come with my assumptions of what I think or what I used to think. In fact, I want to get to know this person. All right. So those are the key things that we need to begin to understand when it comes to thoughts around relationship. Is what are the thoughts we're generating? Because if you generate a thought of dislike to me, And I just said we're electromagnetic beings, and suddenly you come towards me and I'm acting like I don't like you, and you're wondering why. You've created that thought. You've unconsciously sent me a signal to say you don't like
Don't
me.
come around.
Don't come around. And this is the thing I always say to you: when people come around you, watch the vibe, watch their energy. I always say I have energy meter, energy testing meter. How do I feel around you? What is the feeling I'm feeling? Because the feeling will inform me of the thoughts. Okay? The feeling will inform me of the thought processes that I'm generating towards you. So if you're constantly generating negative feeling towards people and you're finding that people are staying away from you, don't be surprised. You're sending them signals to stay away. You're sending them signals to say, you know what, I don't need you. I don't need anybody. I am independent woman. I can do it on my own. And you forget, no man is an island. A tree, my father used to say, I love this guy. A tree does not make a forest. Okay, so we need to begin to test and check our thoughts towards people. It must come from a place of love. If it's coming from a place of love, you're good. But if your thoughts are embedded in negative, evil, horrible, wicked thoughts, then trust me, it isn't going to just self-sabotage that relationship that could have been, who knows, something good for you. Okay, so I always say, let your bedrock be based on love. Let your bedrock be based on love. Make sure that the thoughts that you have, you're constantly generating about people, are coming from a place of love. Once that is the bedrock of your thoughts and your thoughts towards people, trust me, that's why Christ said they're your neighbors. Because when you have a neighbor, you look out for the neighbor. Okay, so we need to constantly check our thoughts and make sure that our thoughts are aligned with our beliefs. And our beliefs, remember, have to be checked. They're not beliefs that have been passed down to us, but these are beliefs that we have established as our truth.
Wow, thank you so much, Coach, for sharing that. Thank you. I'm so glad that we touched on that, part about relationship to with people, because I mean, all of these things are things that I can testify to, personally. And I wanted it to get out there, so that other people can learn that, what is happening to me or what has happened to me. You might find that similar things are happening in your life, but you've not been conscious enough to know that, oh, this is what is happening, and this is why certain people keep leaving me, and this is why certain relationships, people just ghost on you. I'm not saying all, I'm saying just some, right? Yes. But then just being able to catch some of these things, like, oh, this thing that I'm thinking about this person, is it really true though? Okay, so what if, let's take it a step further, and I think that one of the ways that you can even expose some of these things that we've considered as our truths, and personalized it, and I've even created like a throne, where we sit on, is you need to expose it by being vulnerable, like trust. And I realize that once you're able to expose that thought, what then happens is it literally doesn't have a space to hide anymore. So it's like there's nothing. So it will come again, but then it's almost like that thing, that the strength that it had to stay in your life has somehow dissipated, and it just it's like, okay, where we come, there's nothing to hold on to anymore. Okay, we have no thought, we'll just go. So expose some of these thoughts, especially if it's in relationship with somebody else and it's somebody that you're getting to trust. Now, another thing is you have to also be in a place where you're open to receiving. Yes. And I also wanted you to talk about that. I also wanted you to speak to that also, because I know that a lot of us, and I think that maybe I can say Africa, because I mean, I don't know, but I can just say Africa. A lot of us have really been just taught to dispense. We've never really been taught how to receive. And we struggle in that place. And so we find that most of our thoughts are even centered around, oh, I'm having to give this person this, I'm having to do this, I'm always giving, they don't care about me, they're this. You find that most of your thoughts are always around this kind of things, and they keep popping out. Find that you feel exhausted time after time in certain relationships because of this stuff, So I wanted you to speak to that also. That number one, you spoke of love as a bedrock, right? I think that the best way that you really can be able to switch your thoughts from negative thoughts about people and even about yourself is to even learn how to love yourself, really, because you just have to be kind to yourself. And I think that a lot of us, we're not. We feel like I think that we give kindness to people, and at the end of the day, we get exhausted and burnt out because it's not really, deeply rooted. Because, I mean, you are not experiencing what you're giving out. So in a matter of time, you find out that you're exhausted. So I wanted you to speak to that also. How do you love yourself? I know that you talk about self-love, but really, that's self-love that I'm hearing outside. It's not really, because I know that this one, it's deeply rooted in a lot of work, So I just wanted you to take us through that process, of how to love yourself, and then also how to learn to receive, from people. Like you said, no man is an island.
Yeah, and we're work in progress. Okay, so if there's anybody here struggling with that, I just want to reassure you that we're all on a journey. Okay, and the journey is the journey back to self. Remember, I started by describing the unleashing of the ego, and I said that the ego is the inner being that lives inside of you, that is constantly trying to express a better version of you. So there would be a time where your better version will keep on asking to be expressed, and is in that time sometimes we find resistance. Now, I said that when your thoughts are on the bedrock of love, then it doesn't matter, as long as you know that what the thoughts I have, even if I'm not so happy with this person, but it's based on love, then you are not sending the wrong signal. Now, you cannot give what you don't have.
True.
It says, out of the belly, the mouth speaks, and it shall flow. Yeah. Right? Which means that it has to be full in you. Now, the problem with a lot of us is face value love. And then when we start to give this face value love, and you're giving, because you haven't learned to receive, right? You're exhausted. Now, how do you begin to receive? If you're a channel, this is what I say, the source, the ultimate source of love is our creator, God, right? But we are channels of his love. So the most important thing is to know that you are plugged to the source of love. And knowing that if you're plugged to the source of love, you will never run dry. Now, how do you begin to love? How do you begin to love yourself and begin to be that channel of the love? This is what happened to me. Before I got into this space, I just knew that there was a struggle of love for myself. And I remembered one day when I was deep in my frustration, depression, I was so sad. And all I heard was, oh God, love yourself. I was like, wow. What do you mean by? And I'm not talking about the kind of love you just go and people are doing, oh, let's go and get let's go get my nose done. That is pampering. That is pampering. That is not love is something that is innate. It's from the inside. How do you begin to feel from the inside? What do you see yourself as? So the love that you carry for yourself will show out. It will come out from you. So the minute that you start loving that inner person that it is, yes, what you begin to see that from the inside eyes, that means you begin to see with the eyes of the invisible to say, wow, I am this person. I appreciate who I am. I appreciate my journey. I appreciate what I've been sent and here to do. Understanding my purpose of who I am, what I am, and why. And you will start loving the person that is in you. Okay, so I'm not talking about the physical person that is in here, the body, but I'm talking about the inner person that is inside of you. That is where the real love needs to start. To know that you carry a spirit that is indestructible. To know that you carry a spirit that is perfect. Okay, so when you begin to understand that you carry, then there is that level of, whoa, I love me.
Nice.
I love me. You see, one of the things that got me to start to understand, and I'm not saying I love me from a place of, oh, no, those are tangible things that expire. You know, it says in the word, do not focus on what you can see, but focus on what you cannot see. So what you cannot see is the internal. What you can see is temporary. What I cannot see is what I focus on. So I focus on the spirit behind me. I focus on the spirit in me, working in me, constantly communicating with my Father. That is what I love, because I know that it is going to guide me. And the minute you start loving the inner you, the spirit leading you, guess what? You start trusting it more. Once you start trusting it more, guess what? It starts to guide you more. So a lot of the love has to start with the relationship you have with your spirit. How do you relate to yourself? Do you see, because you see that, okay, a part of you is not the best version of you, do you think the inner you is not good? It is perfect. Listen, you know why I know that you're perfect? When God created you, he went to rest. After creation of man, he took a rest.
Done.
It was like, boy, God gave everything. And he didn't rest after creating the firmaments. He didn't rest after creating the animals. He didn't rest. Why did he not rest after? Because he took a rest to show you how much time he created you. Now, if you notice, creation was done in two folds. He said, let us create man. That is the creation I'm talking about. The first creation of you. Then the second creation was putting Adam to sleep and then creating the physical part. That is dispensable. So understanding the core of who you are, understanding the core of what you carry, boy, you will start understanding and loving that person. You will start loving the spirit. You will start loving what you carry. And from there, it will be very seamless to love others. It will be very seamless for you to carry on that expression of love to other people. Because guess what? When I see Mary, I'm not looking at her haircut. I'm not looking at her fine face. But I know the heart she carries. Right? I begin to relate with you from a place of, Mary, I see your face. You're cool. You're good. But your heart, the spirit you carry is, whoa, it's fire. It's perfect. So I start to have that love for that person behind the person. For that spirit behind the person. Because I know that even if you misbehave here, now and here, I know that the person behind you is just an internal being that has an enormous greatness inside of them. So I start to give grace. I start to allow grace. I start to allow grace because there is that limitation to what you can do here. But knowing that the person function behind you is greater. That is where the real love lies. It's not the function of what we see. It is functioning from what we cannot see and loving that we cannot see.
Wow, Coach. Wow, that was just amazing. That was so amazing. Wow. Guys, I hope that you've been able to pick one or two things from, all that we've shared personal stories, so that, this just goes and takes a seat in your heart.
Amen.
Because really, it will also, when this is done, you go back and then you're able to, you'll be reminded, of things that you've heard. I mean, the scripture also talks about that the Holy Spirit will remind you of things that you've learned and also heard. So yeah, I just, hope that this is what is happening to us as we go on this journey. I know that it's already 9 o'clock, but I just wanted you to run off with one last question.
Okay.
This is just a conversation. We'll still get to that point, where we'll get to have like a question and answer session, people can talk, but not today, so that, you have to go back, to join the family. So the last question is, So the last question is based on, the book that I wrote, How to Win in the Thought Bank, and it says a resource to help you win in your thought life. And let me just add this before I say what I have to say, that, if you want to get the book, I created a wait list on my page on Instagram, so you can just click the link in my bio, and you can get access to it. You can just sign up there, and so yeah, that's that. But I wanted you to share something on how we can win in our thought life. You've talked about, love as a bedrock. You've talked about how we can also engage, and catch our thoughts, in our relationship with other people and also with ourselves, right? So I just want you to round all of that up in, just a few tips, to help people
Win in their
consistently,
thought life.
in their thought life.
Okay. So I'll share what I did. Okay. I had to realize that my thoughts were controlling me, and I wasn't controlling my thoughts. And because of that, I wanted to be more in control of my thoughts. So what I did, the first thing I did was to take an audit of my thoughts. I started being conscious about the most processed thoughts, the dominant thoughts. So I had my dominant thoughts. So I had a book where I would write my dominant thoughts. Sometimes when I'm not with my book, I have my phone, my notepad, and then I would write the thoughts that I have been processing. Some of them I catch, because I can't catch the whole 60. And I started to take notice of what were the real thoughts that were always bubbling in the surface. And the number one thought was thoughts of unworthiness, right? I started to notice that my key thought that I would process was unworthiness. So I thought, okay, I needed to shift these thoughts. So once I tracked my thoughts, and I call them the thought tracker, okay, simple things. If anybody wants it, I can always share it with you. You can share it with them. But the truth is, the thought tracker is just a simple tracking down of your thoughts. And what I did was I started to monitor my thoughts at 12 p.m. I will first monitor my thoughts 9 a.m., monitor my thoughts 12 p.m., 3 p.m. So 5 times in a day. I set my alarm and I started tracking them. So wherever I was, my alarm will go off. What was I thinking? I'll put it down. What was I thinking? I'll put it down. So when I tracked it, like intentionally, every, I think it was 5 times a day in those power hours of prayer, after I tracked my thoughts, I created new thoughts. So once I tracked what I was thinking, then I went on to creating the new thoughts, intentional. So I would sit with the thought like, I'm worthy, I'm beautiful. I started to create affirmations. Okay, I became so obsessed with affirmations. I would say affirmations, I don't care how many times. As long as I track my thoughts, I would affirm my new thoughts. So that was the process I took. It at first it was tedious. It was very tedious because I'd ran this thought unconsciously, and it's a working process. It's a work. I can even show you certain things I use. So I got a look at this here. It's called Think Happy Thoughts. Okay, so I got like a whole box here, a box. So I take my paper each day and I write new thoughts and I put them in here. Okay, so I had to create things around me to help me win this, because it's a battle. You see, I read Joyce Meyer's book, The Battlefield of the Mind. I realized that the battle had to be won first here before I could physically win this battle. So I thought, well, you know what? Let's go. Let's go. So every day I had cards. I don't have them here with me. So I will create, I would write my thoughts and my thought I wanted to create. Then I would back it up with a scripture. So I would have a card and I'll back it up with a scripture. It would be a scripture on that particular thought I want to create. If it was fear, because I dealt with a lot of fear, anxiety and fear. Yeah. Oh my word. My fear was crippling. Fear was crippling me. So I'll back it up with a scripture, for he hasn't given me the power. He hasn't given me the mind of fear. He's giving me power, courage, and of a sound mind. I would recite this plus the new thoughts. which is I'm bold. I have got nothing to fear because love casts out fear. I'm made of love. You know, I started to recreate this. These were intentional and they took time. And once I started to recreate them, now check it out. The other day, I was in a foul mood, which is okay, which is why I wanted to let you guys know, because it's a continuous battle, but it gets easier. Just like you go and exercise your muscles, you know, you go to the gym. The first time you lift the dumbbells, they're heavy. You would feel the pain. The second time, but the more you go to the gym, the more it starts to get used to it. You know, yeah, you feel it, but guess what? You start pushing more weights. And so that was how I started to win the battle. And now when thoughts that are coming from my programming, which I'm still dealing with, I call them the Jericho walls that I'm trying to break down. When they come, I already know. I'm like, this is not coming up here. I've established, I call them guards. I got guards. They will send signal. Boy, Ugo, alert. Somebody has come through the door. And then we'll be like, no, you ain't coming through the door today. I am not going to entertain you. And so it becomes something that you are conscious about. You move through the 4 levels of consciousness. You know, the first level is unconsciously, when you become unconsciously unconscious, right? And so because of that, you start to work yourself to becoming consciously conscious. So becoming very conscious of your thoughts and processing them and putting them in check so that you do not fall a victim of them, because they're powerful. Thoughts are things. Thought creates the life that you live. Napoleon Hill said it. He was one of the key peoples I study. He said about how, you know, people like Henry Ford, when he had the idea to create this magnificent car, it started as a thought. He shared with me in one of his books, Think and Grow Rich, how Edison Lee had the thought of making light. It started with thoughts. How do you think people like Zach, what do they call them? Elon Musk has created electricity cars. It's all with thoughts. They are using the power of their thoughts and using it to be creative in it. And we all can win this battle, but making sure that we are intentionally creating the thought. So go out there, begin to create intentional thoughts, use tools that can help you. Contact Mary's got a workbook. It's a workbook, like a book that's going to help you create your thoughts. In there you can begin to also track your thoughts. She's called it the Thought Bank. I think is a phenomenal book where you can begin to learn how to actively and creatively have the right thoughts that begin to create your world with it.
Wow. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, Coach. Thank you so much for your great words of wisdom, because it's just amazing. I'll still come back and listen to this live again, just to, you know, 'cause I know we're just talking, and I know that this conversation is kind of like for people listening, but you know, now for me, I'll come back. And I also wanted to, you know, share something for people who are listening in, and this is just to run off the session, right? That one of the things that I've realized, you know, and I'll speak on this from the perspective of spirituality, is that I've realized that there are things that God will do for you and has done for you, and is not going to do anything new. Now, you're just going to have to catch up. I like to say that we are all playing catch up to God's plans for our lives. Whatever it is already happened, we're just the ones coming up to you know, to par with, oh, this is God's plan, you know. It's nothing new really. It already exists, you know. And also another thing that I realized is I also wanted to just share something little. I used to hate taking pills a lot when I get sick, because I'm just like, please just inject me or just give me drip fast, let me just go, you know. And I know that a lot of us, and we live in a fast-paced world, that a lot of us just want, you know, some fix it and let's move on, you know, and you know, do and just move on with life. But we've got to come to realization that your thoughts are your responsibility. Your
Yes.
thoughts is 100% your responsibility. And the earlier you take responsibility for it, the better you would see that you would achieve and be able to look back and thank yourself for making this decision. Now, I was saying that I used to eat pills, but recently I got very ill and they didn't put me on drip. They gave me injections, but then they gave me pills now to take, and was time in 8 hours. You have to take this one just once a day, this one twice a day, and all of that. And because of the discomfort and the pain that I felt in my body, I knew I had to do this for me. Because it was one of two. It's either I don't take the pills, I pretend like I'm taking the pills, and then my body can still adjust a bit, but the reality is my pain will not go. Then on the other side, there's really judiciously taking the pills daily at the time that, was said that I should take the pills. I take the pills, and I realized that in days, I was up again. That's the work that we have to do. That's the responsibility that I'm talking about when it comes to our thoughts. We are all desiring a life that is outside of all that we've been used to. We want to make impact. We want to be legendary. We want to be able to look at, just like Serena Williams, she was trending, some days ago, and all of that they talked about, but they kept on talking about how she never gave up, nobody knows the number of hours and the work that she had to put on. The only thing that we all know is she comes up to the court and then she plays and then she wins. But there's a lot of work that she has done. She's read books, she's met with coaches, she's walked through what could be stumbling blocks, and we've realized, and that was why I was able to write this book. I realized that one of the stumbling blocks, like you call it the wall of Jericho, is our thoughts. Negative thoughts, that is, because thoughts in its own, they are just neutral, but negative thoughts, I realized, are walls standing before you and your dreams. So I hope that with all that we've been able to share, you will draw strength from this and decide, first of all, to take responsibility for your thoughts, because you want to be better. You want to be, I'm sure that you definitely want to be, and I'm, also praying this for everyone on the call, that we would be better humans and become, pillars of love in the society and in the world at large, but that taking responsibility for your thoughts. So I just wanted to also put that out there, so thank you, Coach, so much for your time. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for sharing from your vast wealth, of wisdom, and God bless you so much, Coach. I am truly, truly, truly grateful. I'm sure that everyone on the call also is. Thank you guys for also staying this long, on this conversation. Thank you so much, guys. Till next week. I think we have another live next week, Tuesday. Till next week. Thank you so much, Coach. Bye, everyone. Till next week, Tuesday. Bye. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.